Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher, alongside Hall of Fame coach and wrestler Dick Briggs, as always, bringing our holiday, our holiday edition to you, a festive Pinning Combination Podcast, and I hope you enjoy viewing this week. Some things there's a little bit of a break in the college action, but teams are taking a mat here, and we'll break that down a little bit. High school is finishing up before they hit their holiday hiatus, getting ready for the push in 2024. But let's start off with some things. There's a topic that you want to get into right away before we talk about Iowa State and their results Monday on December 18th. This is December 19th for recording. But the first day of the Collegiate Duals down in Nashville, Iowa State had 3 duels. But you want to discuss a little bit something, and we'll start off with teeing it up with Briggs.
Right, teeing it off with Briggs. We again, for those that aren't familiar, it could be anything. It could be wrestling, it could be anything, and it could be a rant, it could be a rave. Today it's a rant. All right, and my topic today is I'm tired of coaches and ultimately college wrestlers dodging competition. We had a great example of that yesterday with Coach Mike Gray of Cornell holding Julian Ramirez from wrestling David Carr in the Collegiate Duals. Now, Ramirez beat Carr last month at the Cliff Keen duels or the tournament in Las Vegas, and it was on what I was watching it, and I think I have a strong enough resume that it qualifies me to be a fair judge at the least of the rules, and I thought it was called wrong. I thought Carr got juked out of some points, and I looked at it, re-looked at it, and I still think he got juked out of some points. But that's not the rant. I guess the rant is the Cornell holding Ramirez out of the duel or the match yesterday in the Collegiate Duals, and we see that happen a lot. We see that at the Big Ten championships. We see that at maybe Big 12 a little bit. Just different places around and throughout the country, and at all different levels. Division 1, Division 2, and I've seen a lot in Division 3, and it's frustrating. And as a fan, it's frustrating. We go to see those meets, we plug in to see those meets online or those matches online, and they don't happen because they're trying to. The pros, I guess, they're trying to protect the high seed in March. Well, a lot of wrestling between, especially now in early mid-December until March, is going to happen and could change those seeds anyway. So that's the pros. The cons are it undermines the sport when the coaches take the biggest draws in the competition away. It's kind of like football, the football team or a football team continually not throwing on 3rd and long, wink, wink, and punting is winning sort of thing. Though I have to say I do like punts. The returns, those are always fun. Anyway, it sends a message also to the athletes that they don't have confidence in the coach doesn't have confidence in them repeating on the win. It also shows high school coaches that this behavior is acceptable, and then there's that trickle effect down, and so it's just I understand there's circumstances with for instance injury or who knows what other different circumstances, but that clearly was not the example yesterday. He wrestled 2 matches, he being Ramirez, one by fall and one by major decision, and then did not take the mat against Iowa State. Iowa State won the meet. Maybe they wouldn't have if Ramirez wrestles, Anyway, and that, so, maybe if the Ramirez wrestlers would have been won a couple more matches leading up to Carr, they would have been forced to put him on to win the meet. I don't know, but it's frustrating. I don't like it, and I wish that the coaches would honor the sport and make the sport better for it.
What was your take then on Mike Gray's email that was posted on social media about why and what went into the decision to hold some guys out in the Iowa State duel? Because Vito didn't wrestle. Of course, he didn't wrestle at Las Vegas as well. I believe there's another wrestler, Myers, that didn't wrestle. And then of course Ramirez. He said that there are some injuries and stuff that led to his decision. Are you not buying that factored in with the 165-pound match?
Now, I did not see that letter online, so I'm kind of, I guess I'm looking at on what you just mentioned, and if those guys are hurt, they're hurt. But I mean, he won a match by pin and won a match by major. It was not, so I don't see that as being the situation here. You wrestled 2 matches prior. Now you have a match and you on a guy that you beat on a controversial win anyway. So I just think that he was ducking in that instance. Now maybe those other two, there were injuries. I did see that Meyer was out, and he wrestled in the Cliff Keen, if I remember right. And so anyway, there you go. That's my take on it. Yeah. How about you, KJ? What do you think?
Well, first off, I'm going to read this. I'll read this thing from Mike Gray. I'm not exactly sure. I think he sent it out to Cornell fans. Maybe he has a newsletter or something that goes out to Cornell supporters. But I'll just read this where he says, Cornell Wrestling faithful, I've received quite a few messages regarding our Iowa State duel, so I figured I would get right to it. We had starters get injured during our previous matches in the day. We wrestled Iowa State. If we wrestled Iowa State first, we would have had all our starters in. I'm not going to risk further injury and endanger my student athletes for a duel in December. Good or bad in the eye of the public, my job is to protect my athletes. If they aren't able to compete, they will not. We have Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Missouri, North Carolina State, amongst others, remaining on the schedule. I think we have the toughest schedule in the country. You do not. It's a very tough schedule. The toughest, I doubt, without crunching the numbers, but I would think that goes to any Big Ten school, really. I expect to wrestle our best in each event. Injuries are a part of the sport, and they unfortunately aren't predictable. All the best, Mike. So my take on it is, if it's injury, I understand that, for sure. You know, I, the accusations of ducking, people will point to that all the time. I look back at one huge example that, I mean, they're kind of two examples in one, really, that I think shows the difference in what, that I'm a little more lenient in something like this, because I look at what happened with Matt McDonough versus Corey Clark. Matt McDonough was an absolute warrior his senior year, wrestling. It was one of those things with his shoulder that, hey, if you can take the pain, you're not going to hurt it any worse. You're going to have to tough it out. If you get surgery, you're going to be done. So he toughed it out. I don't know if he missed a duel, but you could tell at the end of the season, for the postseason, his shoulder was weak. And I think it was I can't remember where Nationals was that year, if it was in Philly or where exactly. But when he did an All-American, you could tell he just wasn't the same. Corey Clark, on the other hand, I think maybe some lessons were learned with McDonough, thinking, hey, maybe we should have sat him and let him rest a little bit so he was as strong as possible come March. Corey Clark, if you remember, with his thumb, shoulder, I mean, he had a lot of things wrong. He set out matches. They accused him of ducking Tomasello, I think. And they were smart with the way that they used him and not wrestling every single duel. And he ends up being a national champ when it's all said and done. So there I give a little bit of, okay, If you're holding them back, if it's a serious injury and they need to sit out, so be it. This instance, it's a little suspect. You know, I mean, you wrestle 2 matches in December, and then it just so happens the third and last one you don't. You know, if if that was the case, um, and I don't know, maybe it popped up in the second match, like at the end of the second match. I don't know. I'm not gonna call anybody liars, but if he was hurt coming in, okay, would you want him to wrestle the best guy that he's gonna face? Let him have the first two, or the first match off, or wrestle the first one, sit the second one, come back for the third. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of riding the fence a little bit.
Right. And I can't help. He mentioned that if we'd have wrestled Iowa State first, well, you know what? I'm thinking if you'd have been wrestling Sisters of the Mercy third, he'd have been in the lineup. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's
No, I understand, and it's funny being able to. I don't know. I'm starting to get jaded, right?
yeah,
Covering stuff for about 15 years on the college level and over 20 at high school. There are some go-tos that coaches use that just really just get old because they don't want to discuss things. I look at Kim Mulkey with the Angel Reese situation in women's basketball, and she's telling uh, a reporter, there are some things you're not privileged to know. Well, this is a symbiotic relationship. You want us to promote you. You want us to cover the sport, but then yet you're telling us there are things we don't get to cover. It's not. You can't have one without the other.
right.
So coaches use it as saying, "Well, that's locker room stuff. That's stuff you're not. That's private stuff." Well, then don't be public. Don't be in the middle of press conferences and wanting publicity and promotion. Uh, if you're not gonna be all in. Now, there are certain things prohibited by law that you can't talk about. That's not what I'm talking about here. But if there are injuries, why wasn't that mentioned before? You're coming back after the fact and saying that kind of stuff. It's just kind of you can say anything. Nobody will know. I
Right.
mean, I just think it's a kind of a weak way out, I guess, or a weak way to express that. If there are issues, is that ever aware before? Vito was. I mean, we're not talking about Vito, and Vito probably did wrestle one of the tougher guys with Arkansas Little Rock with Bailey, who teched Evan Frost. But yeah, I don't know. This situation seems a little bit suspect, even though in the grand scheme of things, kind of give some leeway to people wanting to rest. I mean, hell, the NBA is starting to do it. They've done it actually for a few years where they're not putting guys through 82 game, the rigors of an 82 game schedule. They're literally letting them sit for games.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
the rigors, you speak of that, and I get that, except that he's already weighed in. He's already wrestled 2 matches. You're not saving much there. He's already gone through the hard part. And then
no, I'm
I'll
not
just,
talking about him. I'm not talking about that specific
oh,
example. I'm just talking about general. If somebody sits for a duel,
yeah,
like if Real Wood sits against Ohio State or something like that.
right. That
You
makes
know,
sense. Yeah, I can see. Now, last year in the Big Ten tournament, I'll just my final thought on this subject. There was like over 20, maybe even close to 30 uh, medical forfeits in the middle of the tournament, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And once they had qualified, then that was good enough, and they medical forfeited out of 2 or 3 matches, and And that happened to a lot. Almost every school, I think, had one, at least one. I remember tallying it up. So it was crazy, but I just think it's gone a little bit too far.
And um, I believe the NCAA wrestling committee has tried to rectify that, where now the first medical forfeit doesn't count against you. However, anything after that. So if you make the semis and then default to the sixth, that semifinal medical forfeit doesn't count against you, but then the next two and the consolation do. So they've tried to remedy that a little bit. Is there a remedy for, you know, sitting guys,
Well, that's
especially if the coach is going to claim an injury or something like that?
right. And that's a start. So we'll see if it works. If it prevents coaches, if they know there's going to be one or two losses beyond that on the backside, then absolutely that should prevent them from doing that, I would think. So, and
Yeah.
again, I get it if there's a Michael Kemmer sort of situation comes to mind where that guy was he was beat up bad, and both of the guys I think medical forfeited to six, didn't they? If I remember right. Or,
Yeah. Yeah. Him and North the one
yeah.
year.
Oh no, yeah, no was the other one. Yeah.
Um, Interesting. You mentioned Michael Kemmerer. He announced on X, formerly known as Twitter, um, that he is officially retiring from competition. He's gonna focus on coaching and working with wrestlers, and then of course, he received his graduate degree in finance and stuff, and quite an intelligent person. So probably going in a little bit into his his field of study in addition to coaching. So one of my favorites to watch and cover, obviously throughout the years, and one that is never shy of mixing it up on the mat.
Right.
Always fun to watch.
Yeah, bravo to him. I'm glad he's settled on his decision and is good with that. He is the guy that was he was the guy that brought the resurgence back to the Iowa program. He is the first one from the Pennsylvania area that I recall anyway, that caliber anyway, to
Yep,
step in and say he's going to be an Iowa Hawkeye. And so good for him. It was a fun guy to have on the program and to be able to watch.
for sure. Uh, Speaking of, I know kind of got robbed of that a rematch with Carr and Ramirez, um, an Iowa State Cornell duel, but Iowa State did go 3-0 at Nashville in day one of the Collegiate Duals. Opened up with a 21-14 win over Pittsburgh. Then they beat Little Rock 31-9. I believe won 8 of 10 bouts there against Arkansas Little Rock. And then, of course, finished off with a 26-15 win over number 5 Cornell. Not really as close as 11 points would indicate, maybe. I know that might sound weird, but uh, Cornell only won 3 matches, 2 of them by fall. Of course, not their full lineup in there, as we talked about before. But I would think Iowa State, they've got to be pretty happy with how things have gone. Um, with winning the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational and now going 3-0 here, especially with two top 13 teams.
Yeah, I mean, after the loss in the Iowa duel, that was a loss that they're going back, going, man, we should have, could have, would have,
Sure.
and so they're very hungry after that. They responded so well at Las Vegas, and then Cornell is ranked in some polls third, fifth. I've seen Iowa State's seventh and sixth and seventh somewhere in there, and so that's a pretty nice win for sure. Another thing, this is kind of interesting. I noticed this in the duels. Cornell has an interesting problem at 125. I mean, they're a deep and good team. Did you notice that? So their 25 pounder Brett Unger
Yep.
is ranked fifth, and he was second in Las Vegas, and so here's something interesting. Terrakina from Iowa State beats Camacho from Pitt. Camacho beats Unger. Camacho from Pitt beats Unger from Cornell.
Yeah.
And then Diakomihalis pins Terrakina. This is another Diakomihalis, Greg coming in here.
Right.
He's not, I don't know. So I'm wondering who wins between Diakomihalis and Unger. That's ranked.
Kind of like, was it Lehigh at 133?
Yes.
With Donegal and Crookham?
Right. Exactly. Boy, those Eastern schools got some interesting issues that 25.
Right. That'd be nice to have, or frustrating to have as a coach. Kind of reminds me of the year that the Iowa had Clark and Gilman both at 125 their freshman year.
Yeah. Right. And I remember Penn State was coming in, and I remember Brands had to make the decision which one to put out there, and I talked to Mark Ironside after the fact, and he, Brands asked him, and he goes, "I don't know." He's not in the so it was an interesting dilemma. And as I recall, it worked out pretty well. I think he put out was it Gilman?
Yep.
And
Gilman by decision.
Yep. So anyway.
A couple things from Iowa State's day. They beat Pittsburgh 21-14. And I think they won. I think they split maybe 5-5 or went 6. Actually, went 6-4. Pitt had just beaten Ohio State. So that's a quality dual win right there. I know Pitt jumped all the way to 13. I think they jumped 6 spots after that win over Ohio State. Looked really tough there, December 10th. So that's a quality win right there for the Cyclones. You've got Arkansas Little Rock that they handled. Arkansas Little Rock took Pitt to criteria. Pitt still won by criteria, but Arkansas Little Rock is a team that remember they're still toddlers really in their program stage. One of the D1 program that started up from scratch, and they're taking the number 13 team into criteria and winning a couple matches against the number 6 team in the country. So that's still a good dominant win over a tough hard-nosed team in Arkansas Little Rock, and then of course beating Cornell even without some of its top guys. I think overall a really good day for Iowa State. For me, the individual that really stands out, Younger Bastida again. He was coming off his individual title at Cliff Keen, was Big 12 Wrestler of the Week. He went 3-0. He wrestled 3 ranked opponents. Of course, the one that really stands out, him beating number 10 Dayton Pitzer of Pitt 6-3. I think he had to fend off a late takedown attempt to secure that one. Then he beat number 27 Josiah Hill 14-4, and then against Cornell he beat number 19 Luis Fernandez, who I think is a little bit better than maybe that ranking. I think he could be a round of 12 kind of guy when it's all said and done. But Bastida beat him 6-3. So for me, I think Bastida really stood out. Anybody else kind of stand out to you from the Cyclones on Monday?
With Bastida, my thoughts are: here's a guy that's got like a renewed. I get the sense that he's got this renewed invigoration or something. Bumping up a weight. And I had question marks whether he was going to be able to handle it. So far, he's just knocked it over the fence. But he hasn't got to that top tier level guy yet. So I'm still a little bit of a question mark on his size. And I mean, his athleticism and speed will help him a lot at heavyweight. And
Well, he beat Davison from Michigan at Cliff Keen.
right,
That was a top three. That was a top three guy, but of course Davidson's a little bit of a different build. He's another one of those light heavyweights. So
yeah,
we'll see how he matches up with a bigger heavyweight like a Kirk Vlad or
right,
even Colton Schultz
yeah.
from Arizona State.
And I'm feeling a lot better about Younger now than at the beginning of the season. I had a big question mark, but it's he's doing great. So I'm gonna kind of look at it from the team standpoint. The three schools in the state of Iowa. Iowa State is just they're doing a great job. They're really rolling right now. UNI, we haven't got to see them a lot. Obviously, they stumbled against Columbia when they had three guys out of their lineup and lost that duel. And then and so it's hard to judge them because they've had primarily tournament competition. And they of course they have the number one ranked 84 pounder in the nation, and he's rolling. But then I'm going to venture over to Iowa. Iowa's still kind of it's like this monster that's laying in the grass. We don't know what they're going to be like yet.
That's right.
They're pretty darn good right now. They're having a good dual season, and yet they're still every lineup has been different for them. And I get the suspicion that January is going to be a whole different lineup as well, or maybe even it won't be a lineup that the soldiers salute, but when they get into the dual season, we'll see who's on the roster by then. So,
right.
So it's kind of fun to look at the three schools and see where they're at in that respect.
Yeah, boy, I think you have two teams that really um, have a shot for a top 10 finish in March, and I think you have another team that could be anywhere between a 10 and a 20 if everything goes well at the end of the season as well. So I just I have a I don't know. I just think it's a good year, even though maybe a lot of people don't have that type of outlook on it.
Well, right, and with Iowa, I think they're ranked fourth or whatever, somewhere in that vicinity. That's anything below that, and even in top 10, that's a bad year for Iowa. So I get your point, but they're looking for a title, and the very least second, and anything less than that, they'll probably be disappointed with. But who knows? They could. We'll see when they get a lineup together. Maybe they don't have that tournament strength or whatever, but it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, and speaking of UNI is also down at the Collegiate Duals. They compete today, as we mentioned. We're recording on December 19th, the final day of the 2-day event down at Nashville. Uh, heck of a slate for the Panthers, where they've got number 10 Ohio State, they've got number 2 North Carolina State, and then they finish off with Lock Haven. Boy, this is a good test, and I guess maybe a good overall gauge for Coach Schwab and where his Panthers are.
Right, and so if he has those injury issues or whatever the issues were where they had guys out of the lineup, they're going to be competitive. And we'll find out now. Number 2 and number 10, and Lock Haven's no pushover either. So we'll see what Panthers are about. We haven't had that opportunity yet. They're liable to start while we're on the air here. I think 2, 4, and 6, if I remember right, for
Pretty close. Yep.
time for those duels. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna find out some question marks with the Panthers.
For sure. So you and I 0-1 the season after that Columbia. See if they can get a win, maybe 2 down there in Tennessee. Just kind of shifting gears a little bit to some local results or results from some local teams. Obviously, Iowa hasn't competed since December 8th. Their win over Columbia that we've talked about before. Last week, we kind of mentioned Upper Iowa heading to Indianapolis for the Midwest Classic hosted by the University of Indianapolis. Just put this in perspective, Briggsy. 51 out of the 65 Division II programs were at the event. So out of all of the 65 Division II programs there, you're looking at about 85 to 90% of the programs in D2 all over are there competing. That includes 21 of the top 25 teams, and 7 of the top 10 teams in Division II in this regular season tournament. Might be even tougher than nationals.
Oh, I think it is, and I'll tell you why. Because the brackets are bigger. You don't have to qualify. The qualifying is ridiculous. 24 people qualify for nationals. Come on, NCAA, you're kidding me.
Right.
Division II and Division III, the NCAA it's like,
that's right.
I'm so disappointed with what they do to those kids. But now these brackets are 64 and larger in some cases, I think. Like for instance, Ethan Doty, Upper Iowa 149 pounder, finished 4th. He went 8-2 on the weekend. 10
Wow.
matches in those 2 days. I mean, and so that tells you how big that tournament is. It's absolutely, in my opinion, tougher than their national tournament. Because a lot of guys that will never make the national tournament that were there. So, but that's neat that those schools honor that tournament, that invitational. And there's coming from out west, a lot of Colorado schools, and so that sort of thing. So it's that's neat. I'm glad that the Division II schools rally there.
And Upper Iowa got 4th.
Yeah.
4th out of that, they're just a half point back of Central Oklahoma for 3rd place. Of course, Lander out of South Carolina. This is a program that I think, if I remember from the NCAA tournament in March, they had just started up maybe a couple years ago, and now they're ranked number 1. An incredible job that they've done there. They scored 126 points. So even Upper Iowa at 108.5, finishing 4th, they weren't that far out of it from winning the whole thing. And heck, they were only 4 points away from replacing Parkside in 2nd place.
Right. Great showing. They had 5 medalists. It's the usual 5 that we've mentioned before this year. Chase Loonsman at 165 was a runner-up, and that was their highest finish. Doty that I mentioned, Ethan Doty 149, and Tate Murdy 141 were 4th. Eric Fott, that's a familiar name.
From Clear Lake.
Clear Lake, yep. It was 5th at 157. Coulter By was 7th at 184. So they've got some other guys that could place at nationals as well. I'm thinking Baumler as well that could fit in there, and so Upper Iowa's got a team. They're fun. Going to be fun to follow those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this might be one of Heath Grimm's deepest teams or most balanced teams. I think he's had. There's a few years where they've had some strong, 3, 4, 5 guys. A couple guys making the national finals. 3 or 4 in the semis. But I think from top to bottom, this might be one of his more balanced teams and guys that can do some interesting things especially really, really looking forward to seeing how they compete at the multi-divisional duels at the beginning of January in Cedar Falls.
Right. And I can think back to maybe 18 or 19. He had a decent team then, a real decent team that, and watch him at the national duels as well. So that one would be the one that comes to mind that would maybe, that this team might be close to or better than. So we'll wait and see. But so it's been at least a few years for sure.
Yep. Mentioned Coulter boy, I think he had a nice run at nationals last year. At the end of the season, might have snuck in there and either made the blood round or snuck in and got like seventh or eighth. I can't remember for sure, but he's from Crestwood and he's doing good things as well. As we mentioned, Upper Iowa done for this calendar year. The Midwest Classic kind of ties up their first half of the season, and then January 5th and 6th, the NWCA National Duels coming back to Iowa. Will be at the Unidome in Cedar Falls, and Peacocks will be part of that Division II field the first weekend in January. There's some D3 schools that were competing. I know some women's teams out in Vegas. I know that was that's been a long running tournament for years. Obviously, Wartburg's been there. You mentioned just how much of an effort and kind of a labor of love that has been for Joe Breitbach, right,
Yep.
over the years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Joe and Julie Breitbach do a lion's share of that work, and it's quite a production. I mean, you think about hosting a tournament. It's not really a tournament. It's where you go in and get three duels, where you got multiple teams coming in, you're matching them up and getting three duels, and but you've got to do that in Las Vegas of all places, and you've got to acquire mats, you got to have officials that are flying in, you have to take care of housing for not only your team but also for the other teams that are going to stay at the hotel. In this case, the Flamingo. And it's a lot of work, and I've always appreciated Joe and Julie and others that helped them make that happen. Honestly, I looking at the field this year, it did not look very strong. When I've been to 5 of those, the Desert Duels. There was a cold year. I think it was 5 that I went to, a lot, and it was a lot of fun to go watch. And usually there was a team that could give Wartburg a good run. It was a good battle. And matter of fact, North Central beat them there in 2021, if I'm remembering the right year, at the Desert Duels. And so this year that was not the case. It was not the competition was there. So I'm hoping or wondering if this might be with the Breitbachs. If they're going to continue to do it, of course it will go. If not, I would say that it's probably going to go away. But it's been a great run. We'll see what happens. And the thing that I think might give them a boost is that the women were wrestling at the tournament, and that might be the rejuvenation. So it's always fun to go to Vegas for most people. I'm not a gambler, but it's just fun to see it's an interesting set of people that go visit there. That's for sure, or live there.
It's interesting. Vegas is one of my favorite places, and I do not gamble much when I'm there. And it's just there are certain things. My wife Chris and I have gone there multiple times. We can sit and watch the dancing fountains outside of the Bellagio. We'll just stand on the railing and talk and watch every 15 minutes when those fire up. We do stuff like that. We still get a kick out of things like the volcano outside of the Mirage. Just goofy touristy things that they sucker people in to see that stuff. We bite on it, and the only reason why I mention that is one of my favorite things I've ever had the opportunity to cover was the World Championships in Vegas at the Orleans Hotel in 2015. Being able to go out there, Burroughs, Snyder won world championships. I think Helen Marolis won uh championship. I still remember a Russian heavyweight that medaled in both freestyle and Greco, and I can't remember his name. And I want to say after he medaled the second time, he did a standing backflip, which I'm sitting there going, that dude is so huge. And that just shows the athleticism. Um, and of course, I'm drawing a blank, and I'm not sure why. There's a Turkish heavyweight. Um, at Ghoul, I don't think it's at Ghoul. Um, but gosh darn it, he was one of the top heavyweights in the world when it was all said and done. But that was the first year that I got to watch him in person, and that was when he was starting to make his ascension. So saw him at an early part of his career, and just watching how good he was. I think he had a 10-0 tech in the finals of the World Championships. But uh, marrying wrestling in Vegas was absolutely awesome for me. Being able to go, Tony Ramos was wrestling for Iowa. I think he wrestled on Thursday, and then Metcalf wrestled on Friday, or vice versa. And then Friday there is some other wrestling and stories. That was when they were kind of still dealing with Olympics being taken out of the out of the Olympic trial. So there's a lot of buzz going around about what was going to be different going forward. And of course, um, they've gone from being FILA to UWW and have made great strides. But that Vegas time, all the attractions, and then having that great wrestling and seeing it in person, one of my favorite times. One of my favorite events to ever cover. And I derailed you from talking about the Desert Duel. Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, it was a wash. Warburg just ran the table. I mean, they beat a couple of colleges I never even heard of, honestly. Albion
Really?
College 40-6, St. Vincent College. I'm not sure where that is. 56-0. University of Chicago. That, of course, we've heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Saracen went there and competed. Former Kennedy wrestler. Great. Anyway, they beat Chicago 38-7. So kind of it was an easy run for Wartburg for sure. And they also have their team 2 and team 3 that compete, and with some other teams that are out there as well, and so they can get a lot of their wrestlers on the mat, at least once, and hopefully 2 or 3 times.
Oh, sure.
So it gives them an opportunity to get their wrestlers wrestling. So that's nice, because those lower guys that don't ever get an opportunity, or now they're towards the end of their opportunities, they'll maybe wrestle in that Cornell Mike Duro tournament, in Wartburg's case anyway, and then not much after that. So it's kind of how that works. But moving on, I guess Co was off, as was the University of Dubuque and Cornell. Co and Dubuque will compete in the NWCA tournament. Cornell will go to the Citrus Invitational in Florida. Luther, this is the fun one, KJ. The Game of Duals. I just love that. I'm sorry.
I do too.
Anyway, they had a nice run up there. They went 3-1. They beat Manchester 47-0. Verde University 30-14. Concordia from Wisconsin 47-6, and then they lost to Roanoke. Roanoke's an up and coming team. They've hosted the Nationals up there a couple of times now. So Luther will be at the NWCA duels, as will Wartburg. So all of the Division III schools in the area, with the exception of Loris, will be up in the Unidome.
Speaking of Wartburg, did their women's team compete out in the Desert Duels? Or I know they wrestled at least Chadron State and got their got a victory there. But were they part of the Desert Duels? I know the University of Iowa was out there. They went 3-0. They beat Adams State 34-11. Colorado Mesa 25-20. There, and then beat Simon Fraser, which I believe is one of the Canadian teams that competes collegiately in the U.S. if I remember correctly. But they edged Simon Fraser 24-23 there as well. But do you know off the top of your head if that's where Wartburg was competing on the women's side as well, or if they were somewhere else?
Yes, they were. Let me give you some results here. As a matter of fact, let's see here. They beat Chadron 25-21. I think you mentioned that. Mm-hmm. And then they beat, I forgot this one. They beat Adams State, which is I think NAI, or they Division II.
I think they're a Division II school.
Right. And I don't know where they are on the women's, but they beat them 40-1. So there was some sort of incident that went on there, evidently. Oh no, I forgot. Never mind. The women get one if they score
freestyle rules.
Right, freestyle scoring. So in other words, if someone gets tech fouled 10-0, then it's a 5-point for the team. But if the person like wins 10-1 or 11-1, now because that one person scored a 1, their team gets a point. So that's what that's about.
Yep.
And they also defeated Pacific University 30-11, and then they got beat by Colorado Mesa 29-11. So they went 3-1.
So women teams taken to the mat as well. There's some other wrestling going on outside of just the college ranks this weekend. The senior level wrestlers were in Fort Worth for the U.S. Senior Nationals. Since we're talking about the women, I'll just mention Iowa had a couple women wrestlers placed down there. Marilyn Deedy, she finished second at 76 kilograms, and then Rose Cassiope, the sister of Tony Cassiope, finished fifth as well. Both qualified for the Olympic trials in State College, Pennsylvania, April 19th and 20th. So yeah, that look forward to. They'll be joined by some Hawkeye Wrestling Club members who also competed on the men's side of things. Spencer Lee comes away with a 57-kilo title, beating Nico Megaludis for the second straight tournament in the finals. He did the same at the Bill Farrell Invitational. Previously, Lee looked just as dominant this time around to win. He was already qualified for the Olympic trials, but Alex Marinelli was second at 163. Austin DeSanto, Tony Cassiope placed fifth. So that punches their ticket to the Olympic team trials. And the one thing that I thought was interesting about all of that, in addition to Spencer just looking dominant again, Cassiope beat Jacob Warner for fifth place. So those two teammates wrestling each other, but Cassiope, a heavyweight for the Hawkeyes. Warner wrestled 197. They competed at 97 kilos, which is like 213, 214 pounds. But they had to face off for that last berth to the Olympic team trials.
Well, and that's Cassiope dropping down. So remember when he was first enrolled at Iowa?
Oh, yeah.
And he transitioned, transformed his body, and then even more now for, I don't know if thinks he has a better shot. He must at making the team. Isn't that Snyder's weight?
Yeah, it's I mean, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. When you have guys like Gable Stevenson
Yeah.
or Paris and Wzdowski, or you go down to Snyder and some of the other guys at 213 there.
Well,
Pick your
help me
poison.
out. Missouri,
Jaden Cox.
Jaden Cox,
Yep.
another one there
He's,
as well. So, holy cow! I mean, that's when you have to compress to 6 weights from 10 weights to 6.
yeah.
And what do you do? I mean, that a lot of people getting pinched out. It's so sad. I wish we had 10 weights, but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned the other winners. This was interesting though. At you mentioned Spencer Lee really handling Rodriguez. Oh no, that's semifinals. Oh, sorry, Megaludis 6-2 in the finals. But Andrew Alvarez, remember, is he still?
Oh yeah.
Is he still competing at UNC?
Not
Colorado?
this year. He's taking his Olympic red shirt. He
Okay,
still has eligibility, but he's not competing for Northern Colorado this year.
I haven't seen his. That makes sense. And Bo Bartlett, is he? That's who he beat. Eight
That
to
I'm
nothing,
not
as a
sure.
matter of fact. So.
Yeah.
And then at 174, you mentioned that Maryland was second. Quincy Monday is coming on, man. He's looking tough. Geez. And then Deringer at 86 over Mark Hall, 6-0. It surprised me. That's pretty hefty win there, 6-0.
Did you see the pictures of Daringer, the little graphics? He is ripped.
Yes, I did see
Oh,
that.
he's
He does.
shredded.
Whew. And then at 97, Colin Moore, former Ohio State wrestler, and beat Nathan Jackson 12-2, Tech Fall, and then Dominic Bailey at 125 beat Christian Lance to complete those 6 weights.
Gotcha.
Now there's a couple of those weights where they'll go in and they'll wrestle their tournament, and then the world champion gets to sit out and watch those. Like for instance, Kyle Dake, David Taylor. Oddly enough, I don't think Stevenson gets to do that.
Really?
I don't think he was a world champ last year or something. I saw that he doesn't get to sit out, which
Okay.
I don't know that it matters, but
Right.
we'll see on that one. And then I'm missing one other one. I think there's a world finalist with the lighter weights. But anyway, and then the weights
Would it be Vito? Would be Vito, would it?
I don't think it was Vito. But anyway, might have been. But so that's interesting. Boy, what a huge advantage. But those other guys have to wrestle through that, and it's not an easy tournament. I mean, looking at the names in that tournament that they'll be going through, man, just to get to David Taylor, Kyle Dake, Kyle Snyder,
Right.
Those guys. So
Any final thoughts on the college side or international side that we haven't touched on?
no, it's fun it's fun to have an international going right now to kind of keep an eye on that. And I mean that Olympic trial procedure. There's still a lot of other opportunities for wrestlers to qualify for clear into March. I think there's probably 5 or 6 more opportunities, and to be able to qualify for the Olympic trials. But the Olympic trials are going to be special. So I wish they were in Iowa. I don't think they are they? But
what was that?
I don't think the Olympic trials are in Iowa. Are they the final?
No, they're at Penn State.
Penn State.
Or out at State College,
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Final X, is that what it's called? I think Final X.
Well, I think that's a little bit different. I think that might be something different than this Olympic team trials tournament. But
and that's the problem with the Olympic. It's so confusing. You and I, who are big wrestling people, don't understand it.
I know. Wrestling gets in its own way sometimes.
Yeah.
It needs to be more user friendly and easier to understand. Well, hey, let's transition to high school and take a quick second. Obviously, we're both wearing festive garb here. I'm in my ugly Christmas sweater. The saying. My wife and I have matching sweaters where, it's Why is the floor all wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. Quote from a Christmas Vacation. But we wanted to talk about some festive things, and one being Christmas movies. Uh, Briggsy, what are your top 5 Christmas movies?
All right, I'm compressing these together for my first choice. Home Alone 1 and 2. I like them both. Yep, Home Alone in New York was pretty good too. All right, number 2, my traditional pick. It's a Wonderful Life. I just like that, man.
Really?
Yeah, that's you got to have a traditional one in there. And then you'll know this one. It has so many great quotes in it, but see if we can come up with it after these. We can take these guys. Santa, I know him. He's an angry elf.
Oh yeah.
That's the movie Elf.
Yep.
And then my fourth pick is the Hallmark Christmas movie that has cheesy music playing most of the movie and ends with the kiss in the last minute. Oh, wait a minute. That's all of them. Never mind. And then number 5 is Die Hard, without a doubt. End of discussion. What's your choice? I know you're number 1. So
we'll have to talk about the Die Hard dynamic sometime. But so I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go 5-1.
Okay, I didn't have any choice. Mine weren't ranked.
So number 5, mine was Office Christmas Party. I don't know if you've seen that with Jason Bateman, Olivia Munn, Kate McKinnon from SNL, Jennifer Aniston's in it. TJ Miller, who I think is an underrated comic. It's just a wild, crazy, unorthodox Christmas. Has probably one of the best like cameo supporting things with. I don't know if you know a comedian named Fortune Feimster, but she's playing an Uber driver throughout this thing. She absolutely kills me. But Office Christmas Party is 5. Number 4, Charlie Brown Christmas. Going back to the days with my first memories. That's one that we'll watch no matter what. No matter how old I get, I'll always watch that. And seeing Snoopy, I mean, it's still one of my favorites of all time. Number 3, Christmas Vacation. It's one of those things where you would think watching it over and over again that it would just kind of run out of steam, but I just giggle every time. It's just some little thing that pops up each time, like when Clark is telling cousin Eddie about, hey, we'd really like to get your kid something for Christmas. And by the time he's finished, Eddie's already got a list for him. And he goes, I want you to buy yourself something really good, Clark. And totally oblivious of just kind of the douchebaggery that he's doing. But, just stuff like that. Love Christmas Vacation. And then this one, I really took the easy way out because A Christmas Carol is one of my favorite stories, movies. So I just lumped them all together because you've got like the more of a live animation that Jim Carrey does for A Christmas Carol. You have more of a traditional one with Patrick Stewart that I like a lot. Then you have a Muppets Christmas Carol. You have a Disney Christmas Carol that are all fun to watch as well. Then you've got movies like Scrooge with Bill Murray. That's a Christmas Carol, a different version, updated Christmas version, or version of A Christmas Carol. Then you have, I don't know if you've ever seen Spirited with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. Very, very funny movie that I think is on Apple TV. But that's kind of an offshoot of A Christmas Carol as well. I also think It's a Wonderful Life is kind of similar to A Christmas Carol. So I just kind of lumped all those in at number 2. And then the number 1 A Christmas Story. Um, that I think is probably one of the ones that reminds me of Christmas, even though I was like decades later. It's not necessarily the timing, but everything from, I don't know if you remember like the one scene where he's plugging in where they blow the fuse, but they've got like um they've got like 8 to 10 things plugged into the same outlet. And then putting the last one in there, the sparks pop up, and um that kind of stuff reminds me of Christmas where we lived on 12th Street down by McKinley. If you're from Cedar Rapids, you know where I'm talking about. And there's just a lot of stuff that reminds me of kind of my family, and some of the small things that go on around that.
I can see Larry getting you to lick a nice pool.
That was more like make me.
Make you. I'll
Not
make you.
getting me to. More like, here, do this if you wanted to.
No, really.
Go on, do it.
It was.
And I remember, the big thing where they went to Higbee's, right? To see like the parade and see Santa. That reminds me of going down to the old Armstrongs. People around Cedar Rapids might forget about Armstrongs and Woolworths downtown to shop. And it was, that was like a huge deal, and kind of reminds me of kind of what Ralphie experiences there.
Kind of their mechanical movement, Christmas display inside the
displays, and
that's cool. I forgot about that. We used to do that. Did you ever have a movie? And I'll start on this one. That was not kind of your worst or your weirdest Christmas one. To me, it's Polar Express. That Tom Hanks character he freaks me out.
My daughter Keely absolutely hates it. Katie likes it. Boy, I'm trying to think of I know there's one out there because I was thinking about this. Too, that a Christmas movie that I just don't like. I'll have to
think about that.
Think about it. I know it's out there. There's one that I just Deck the Halls, with Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito. Oh God, I did not like that movie.
I don't remember that one.
It essentially they're neighbors, and then they have this huge battle with light displays, and the more it tried to be funny, the more awkward it seemed to be, and I didn't like it. So staying on that, and the one other thing I wanted to mention about A Christmas Story, I believe it was 2017, the NCAA championships in Cleveland. The Sunday after the championships, my family was with me, and we went to the Christmas Story house. That's in Cleveland, because all that's located in Cleveland, and it's still there, the block. We were able to walk through the house and see where some of the stuff was filmed. They have a neat little museum there with some of the stuff as well, and the tour guide kind of explained some of the things in the movie now that really stand out when we watch it again. So that was really cool.
Right, and I think I was in Cleveland with you when your family went there, and I think didn't you get the leg lamp or something?
I have a leg lamp ornament, and I'm kind of looking at it on the. I should have grabbed it. And we also have, you mentioned licking the pole. There you go. There's Schwartz.
Okay, I got a counter for that. We didn't plan this either. I got one of my favorite Christmas ornaments. It's the skydiving Santa.
You ever dressed up as Santa when you skydived?
No, but I dressed up as Elvis and landed at a wedding of people I didn't even know. And
awesome. I've got to hear more about that story sometime.
Briefly, we landed, and I heard the wife go to the husband. She goes, "I loved Elvis. You'll do anything for me." He didn't have a clue. So he came over and thanked me.
Hey, there you go. Hey, it all works out. Hey, so what about Christmas songs? They come hand in hand with Christmas. What are your favorite Christmas songs?
Christmas songs. Here we go. Uh, First one is Mannheim Steamroller. Pretty much anything, but especially Good
Oh,
King Wenceslas. I love that one. Good King Wenceslas. My traditional couple here, Feliz Navidad, Jose Feliciano. I like that one. Always have. And Hallelujah from just about anyone. And that's not always just a Christmas song, but Hallelujah. And in this instance, the Pentatonics. I like that, their version.
oh yeah, they're good.
And then, really honestly, Little Saint Nick, because I mean, what shouts Christmas more than the Beach Boys?
Yeah.
And Little Saint Nick from
Yeah.
by the Beach Boys. And lastly, what respectable sports fan doesn't like Wham's Last Christmas? I mean, George Michael, come
Oh
on. That's what I'm talking about. Take that, Mariah.
yeah. So here are my five favorite ones. Uh Number five, Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Bruce Springsteen. Couple of these are performer specific, but that version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Bruce Springsteen, I'll kind of stop what I'm doing just to listen to the boss sing that one. Number four, just Jingle Bells. I mean, I think if there's a song that just I immediately think Christmas is Jingle Bells. For that one. Um, Number three, the Christmas song by Nat King Cole. I love Nat King Cole. I think I like him more than Sinatra even. Um, but his the Christmas song, which is Merry Christmas to You. Um, that gets me. Then the 12 Days of Christmas, and this is a specific one with the Muppets, mainly
Mhm.
because we have a Christmas tradition where we go up to Dubuque to Murphy Park to see the lights um, up there, and when we would sing it or it would come up on the radio, we would sing it, and every time we would startle my wife with Keely, Katie, and I. We would scream five golden rings, not even sing it, and it would always cause Chris to jump. So that becomes that's been like a tradition whenever we hear that song. So that's one of my favorites. And then number one, Silent Night, uh, is is probably my favorite of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and then you mentioned favorite Christmas presents. I don't know if you can see this too much because of um, the background is causing an issue, but this is a homemade Christmas present. As you can see, the picture of Keely and Katie when they were little. Um, the girls gave me that. It's got some of the pictures of their sports and stuff on it as well. And that's my favorite Christmas present. Second is when we got a Nintendo when I think I was in seventh or eighth grade. We got a Nintendo for the first time. Um, so those are my top two favorite presents.
Right. And for me, I went way back, way back. I mean, I could have done a family one as well, but
Was it Zeppelin?
I went way, I went back to when I was a child, the HO racetrack with my HO
Oh,
cars. And you get the little HO cars, and we would soup those up. And man, Gordy Norgren and we go to each other's houses and build super tracks and race them and just have a blast. So that was fun memory. Was that I still have the HO track. So does Gordy actually.
so that's kind of cool to kind of go over that list and everything. So hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody out there watching and following us each week as well. So we hope you have a great holiday and good New Year filled with all kinds of wrestling and good tidings, I guess, um, for you all. Um, let's move to high school here. Um, obviously the big one, the Battle of Waterloo. Indianola comes away with a team title. Bettendorf second. Linmar, the number 2 seed in their bracket. They beat Waverly Shell Rock and end up getting third. And Osage getting fourth. They're in the championship pool. But uh, Indianola, you mentioned that when we were exchanging messages yesterday that no surprise to you that Indianola came away with a team title.
It wasn't. It wasn't. If you remember last week, I had was picking the number 1 seeds in each bracket, and I picked Indianola, and I knew that because they had beaten Bettendorf the week before at the Johnson tournament, was it? And had won that tournament as well. So not a total surprise actually. And I didn't know what the strength of Bettendorf would be because they had some out. Osage had some out. So those are. So I was surprised somewhat, but not totally surprised, I guess.
Yeah, you mentioned this was just kind of a weird field compared to years past, just because not everybody was at full strength, right? Um, when was the last time Don Bosco was a 4 seed in anything, even though they made the bracket finals? Waverly Shell Rock, um, what did they finish, 7th or 8th overall? Um, but Linmar was a team that they had that little bump on criteria. The first duel of the season, we thought they're much better than what they showed, but they had a kind of a easy time on day one, being Waterloo East, Nashville Plainfield, and Waverly Shell Rock. Beat the Gohawks 40-27, and that was their closest duel in brackets. And then they opened up 57-14 against Osage. Lost 34-26 to Indianola, and right there with the Bulldogs falling 36-33 to Bettendorf. But I thought this was probably more indicative of the strength that Linmar has dual wise.
Yeah, I think Linmar is probably getting closer to full strength. Not that they were heading on out, but they're just wrestling really well. And to kind of the opposite. I was almost a little bit, even though they did quite well, slightly disappointed with Alburnett. But I also think that had to do with their seed, how they were seeded. So you get, I don't think the teams were seeded properly. And you had Waverly Shell Rock and West Delaware that didn't even get into the second pool on the
Right.
third on the second day, and so those were top seeds, and that kind of threw it off then. So a little bit. So I think Alburnett kind of fell into that category. They might have done a little bit better, but so Linmar kind of going up here. Alburnett might have dipped just a little bit, but maybe that was because of the circumstances. So.
And what about Cedar Rapids Prairie? They get 5th overall, so they got second in their bracket, and then they come out and go 3-0 in pool play against Alburnett, Don Bosco, and Waverly Shell Rock. They lost on the opening night of the season to Alburnett. So
right, and then beat them 32-22. So that was a significant win. That was a nice turnaround for Prairie. Good for that team. You got good job.
Yeah. So and of course, got to congratulate Brad Smith and Max Thompson, 2 of our area guys going into the Hall of Fame there at the Battle of Waterloo. Brad Smith was a coach with City High in Lisbon. Max Thompson, a 4-time state champ for Union, who competed at the Battle of Waterloo during his time there. And interestingly, his only loss came at the Battle of Waterloo his freshman year. He lost to Phil Lux of Iowa City West there in one of the duels. So Interesting. He goes in as a Hall of Famer, even though that's where his one loss came. But obviously, Max very, very, very deserving of that honor as well as Coach Smith.
Right. I mean, you got to wrestle in that tournament to be a Hall of Famer there, or in their honor hall, whatever they call that. But yeah, for sure, fabulous wrestler.
Let's we're talking about Prairie. Let's talk about the girls side. Um, there's actually the girls Battle of Waterloo on Thursday. But then on Saturday, Prairie had its Winter Classic at home. And Vinton Schellsburg came away with a team title at the Prairie Classic. The Vikings wrestled extremely well on Saturday. They competed in the Battle of Waterloo as well. But they had 8 wrestlers place 6th or better at Prairie, including 4 finalists. Ellie Wheats at 115, Bree Swenson at 120, and then Chloe Sanders, who I believe was a state finalist last year, as well as maybe one of the other two. She won the 135 pound title. Sadie Burke was second at 140 for Vinton. Swenson and Sanders pinned their way through the bracket. Wheats had 2 pins, attack, and a major in her title sweep. But Vinton Schellsburg looking pretty good with 190.5 points, which was 27.5 more than the host Hawks.
Right, and I ref that last year. It's a fun day because they have the girls tournament in the big gym, and they have four mats set up there. If I remember, is it 4 or 6? Anyway, I believe 4 set up there, and then they have 2 set up down in their cafeteria and 2 up in their auxiliary gym. So that they use for the junior varsity boys. So it's a big day of wrestling at the Prairie High School there, and a lot of fun. Kinsey Childress, the state champion for Prairie, ended up winning that, and Prairie also had a runner-up in 2/3. So good showing by the Hawks there.
Oh, for sure. Some of your other champs, 2 over at Prairie. Wacon's Mia Kurth won at 100 pounds in Union Community. Little Monster, Jillian Worthen, doing her thing, winning at 125 pounds. You mentioned Childers at 130. Bent Community's Lizzie Wolf won the 140 bracket. Phoenix Grip of Williamsburg, the 145-pound champion there. Autumn Ellsbury of South Tama, she won at 170. Western Dubuque's Sheridan Anglican won at 190. Unfortunately, we were up at City High Western Dubuque for the duels last Thursday, and Anglican had a forfeit there. So we didn't get a chance to see her wrestle, but she comes away with a title Saturday. And then Ella Brown from Cedar Rapids Kennedy wins at 235. She had 4 pins, I think 3 within like 41 seconds or less, and then had a second period fall in the finals. So Ella Brown, dominant performance at Prairie. And just wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit. We mentioned these teams wrestled at the Battle of Waterloo. The girls wrestled on Thursday. It was Cedar Falls coming away with the team title at Waterloo. Waverly Shellrock was second. Bettendorf was third. But of the teams that competed at Prairie, Vinton Schellsburg won Pool 3. So that essentially put them in 7th place at the Battle of Waterloo. Prairie won Pool 4, which put them at 10th in the 2014 field. So good showings there for Vinton Shellsburg and Prairie, 2 of those 3 days.
Yeah, that's a busy week for those. I mean, going up from the battle where there's 24 teams to Prairie, where I think there was 27 teams. Yeah, 27 teams at the Prairie girls tournament. So that's some hefty wrestling Thursday and then Saturday. So
Yep, I was at Northland for their annual invitational. That was won by Cedar Rapids Xavier. Their first title since winning the Zimmerman invite um, back in December of 2023. So a couple years ago they made the regional dual field in Class 3A. I think this is a team. Talking to Ryan Chambers, this is a team that they don't necessarily have that really huge standout. They've got some good individuals. Um, Ronan Thomas is ranked. Ryan Hofer is ranked. Gene Ngoma, he has made huge strides. He's ranked at 215. They don't necessarily have that like top tier guy like a Christian Stanek maybe from a couple of years ago, but they have some really good wrestlers from top to bottom. Tatum Deppy won a matchup of Xavier wrestlers in the finals there. He beat Elliot. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Elliot's last name. It's Gnewuch, and I can't remember how it was announced, but Deppy won 8-1 there. Adam Cook was a titleist as well. Jack Foster for Xavier at 126 won his first title. You can see a feature on Foster at thegazette.com. He's made huge strides, really jumped into the club scene in the off season and has really dedicated himself to the sport. And he's starting to see the rewards, on pace to have more wins than he did a year ago. Some other champs there. Cedar Rapids, Washington had a champion in Aaron Butikoffer. He won the 157-pound title. Maquoketa Valley's Big Three, Nathan Bites at 190, Brady Davis at 215, and then Aiden Salau at heavyweight all came away with championships as well. Those
so
three, all three place winners.
When you say big three, do you mean that's their big hitters, or do you mean that's their big boys?
Both.
Both. Yeah,
Both.
I like that. Well,
all three were state place winners. I believe Bites was third, and Davis and Salau were both seventh at state last year. They go 190, 215 heavyweight. So double meaning there for their big three, coming away with team titles there at Northland. But I think Xavier's an interesting team just for the fact that they were respectable at Indy. They finished third behind Mount Vernon and Wapsie Valley, two good teams in 2A and 1A at Mount Vernon the last week. And then, a little bit of a weaker field that, they came away and beat Woodbury Central, who made the drive all the way over to Troy Mills, beat them by 33. So that's a team that, may creep back into that regional dual field again this season.
Right, and I would mention this as well, just as a note. Linmar was there, but they were also up at the Battle of Waterloo. So Linmar had to have been their second, maybe even third team, and they walked away with the champion Will Smith at 113 and two runners-ups and 2/3. So great depth on that Linmar program.
Oh, by far, yeah. Yep. One other tournament note that I just want to mention quick. The Regina Invitational West Branch came away with a team title down there. They had 251 points. They beat Maquoketa Valley by 74. Or I'm sorry, MFL Marmac by 74 points. West Branch not necessarily known for wrestling, really. There's a time where the numbers were really, really low there. They had some really nice stretches. You had guys like Kyle Kober that had come through. When Mark Juergens was coaching, they made the state duels, but you see an uptick for the Bears. They have won all three of the tournaments that they've wrestled in so far. Those are tournaments at Tri-County English Valleys the opening weekend. They won the Tipton Invitational the week before this last one, and then one at Regina. They're 6-1 in duels right now as well. Their only loss was 35-33 to Davenport Assumption in Class 2A. So heck of a season right now for West Branch. And, they had 11 wrestlers in the field, and all of them finished third or better. They had 8 in the finals. Ethan Humphrey at 106, Logan Christoffel 132, Kale Sadell at 157, Cooper Gates at 165, and 215-pounder Quentin Roca won titles for the Bears. I know Logan Wright was one of the individuals that they got second. Lincoln Edwards, I believe, got second as well. So I tell you what, West Branch was a team that people were kind of like, hey, keep an eye out on the Bears. And sure enough, this first half of the season, they've really followed through.
Right. They had 3 runner-ups and 3 thirds, which means they had 11 wrestlers in the top 3. So nice showing for sure. And it's good to see that program, like you said, have this resurgence and doing well.
I know Williamsburg won the Pleasantville Duels this last weekend. I know Western Dubuque was going to Waukee, but you found out that Southeast Polk, the Red Owens Classic, was canceled.
Yeah, I have no idea why it was canceled. It wasn't posted. When I saw, I was looking for the results, and someone on the Southeast Polk site, on Instagram, they posted it was canceled, and they joined another tournament. I didn't check that because they won it handily, like 11 champs or something like that. And so Southeast Polk is probably the best team in the state on all 3 levels, most likely. And anyway, so I was not able to chase that down because they didn't have it for whatever year. 50 years of holding the tournament, and this is the first year it's been canceled. Even through COVID, they had it. So
wow.
Anyway, for whatever reason, I don't know. But one other tournament I mentioned briefly was the Fort Madison, which is a big tournament. It's a 23-team 2-day tournament down there. Hempstead walked away the winner there, 382 points. Clear Creek Amana was second, 376.5. Ottumwa was third. Columbus Community fourth. Benton Community fifth. Notre Dame Burlington sixth, and Solon was seventh. Kennedy ended up eighth. So some local teams there, and they did well down there. Kennedy's best finish was Colin Falk at 165. He was second. Loudon Bloxham was third at 157, and Christian Gasper was third also at 175. Solon had a champion, Jordan Schmidt, and a couple of thirds. Benton Community, Brendan Hang continues to keep rolling at 165. He is a champ. They had a second and 2 thirds. And Clear Creek Amana, Cale Nash was first at 120, a couple of seconds and a third. So good showing with our local teams down there.
Nice. any parting words of wisdom or last? I just want to let everybody know that this is going to be our last installment of the pinning combination from this year. We're going to take the week between Christmas and New Year's off. We'll come back that first week of January as we kind of get ready. We'll preview the multi-divisional duels that are happening at the end of that week. And of course, high school wrestling will get right back into the swing of things with its push towards February. But before we close out 2023, any words of wisdom or parting shots?
No, it's kind of nice to have a little bit of a pause right here, and then we'll get started with the the Citrus Open, the Midlands, and what's the other one down there?
Soldier Salute.
Soldier Salute. Hello. Yep.
And the Southern Scuffle.
So that's what I was trying to think of. Southern Scuffle. There we go. Yep.
So, yeah, still a lot of fun coming. From my point, I just want to thank everybody that humors us throughout the season and follows along. We hear from you. I know, Dick, you've heard from many people that say thanks and they enjoy listening and following along. We do this because of you. To be totally honest, we could sit in our own living rooms and talk about this stuff. We do it on camera so we can talk and kind of hope to fill you in or highlight some people that you're following throughout the season as well. So thank you guys and girls for following us throughout the wrestling season, and here's to a real fun and successful 2024 coming up after the break.
Right. And I would add on to that, KJ, that, feel free to comment, good or bad. We love hearing it from you, suggestions or corrections or whatever else that needs to happen. So appreciate it very much.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Love the feedback. That's always great to have as well. I want to thank the people that help us put this on. Obviously, Nathan Ford's on vacation, but he's a huge part of it. Liz Kennedy and Stephen Colbert helping us put things together in his absence. We're really, really grateful for all you guys do. And as we get ready for a little bit of a break, and then 2024, Coach Briggs, why don't you send us out with our late friends, G. White Schultz's tagline?
Let's keep wrestling on the move.
Thanks for watching, everybody.